Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar for cost savings benefits for your hybrid cloud. My name is Kevin Hill. I'm a cloud solutions architect at NetApp, and I'll be taking you through our webinar today, showing you how you can leverage the data fabric and NetApp's enterprise class data management to obtain and also realize cost savings for your hybrid cloud. One of the first things we'll go through is what are some of the key cost contributors for the public cloud. And the main one is really going to be storage. So if any of you have ever done anything in the public cloud like Amazon Web Services or maybe Microsoft Azure, you'll find that yes, you have some compute charges, but you'll find that you also start to have a lot more storage charges. And then maybe some more storage charges. And then maybe even some more storage charges. Along with that, you end up having some sort of backup. In an Amazon land, this would be snapshots of your EBS volumes. Those will also incur some sort of charge with them. Going a little further, if you have moved data into and out of the cloud, you'll know that data ingress into the public cloud is free. However, data egress is not. So any public cloud provider like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, there will be some sort of charge per gigabyte for data egress. And, excuse me, something in my throat. And also, there will be the hourly compute charges. This is going to be applicable in a couple of different ways. One, this is going to be applicable for your virtual compute, either the EC2 instances or the virtual machines in Azure or AWS. And also if you're going to be using some sort of virtualized storage appliance. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more in detail in a couple of the upcoming slides. Before we go there, I do want to talk to you about a customer experiencing of going all into the public cloud. One of the things that they saw as matching was as their customers grew, so did their storage requirements, almost one for one, although the storage rapidly outtook the customer growth. Their compute charges stayed relatively flat. However, what they found, which was really good about going all into the public cloud, was the economies of scale for their compute and networking. The elasticity for being able to instantiate new virtual machines or expand new networks and facilitating their customers. However, one of the concerns that they had was the storage capabilities were not what they expected, and in some cases they weren't able to meet the SLAs of their customers. And also the price and the cost that they were experiencing for the storage was more than they had originally expected. Now, coming over to NetApp, looking at what we can do and what we can offer, this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about our enterprise class data management. We've been in the industry for over 20 years. We've been doing primarily storage and data management administration for that entire time, so we know a thing or two about storage. We also have the #1 storage operating system in the world, which is OnTop, or it used to be known as Clustered Data OnTap, but now we shorten that to just OnTap. With OnTap, we have numerous storage efficiencies, which I'm going to talk about. We also have industry-leading data replication, which is both efficient and simple. And then we also have other things for doing seamless data tiering to your public cloud, or through your public cloud, or for your on-premises system, so across your hybrid deployments. And I'll also talk a little bit about hybrid cloud data management, because managing data across the clouds is a key concern for customers moving forward. Talking a little bit about some of our storage efficiencies, here are a few, namely NetApp snapshots, thin provisioning, deduplication, flex clones, compression, and compaction. So NetApp snapshots is definitely one of our key core technologies. It's one of the first things that we've came up with. This is where instead of rewriting your data in the different blocks, we never rewrite a data block. We always end up taking a picture of where those blocks are written. This is of our inode table, and we'll take a picture of that. And then if we make any changes, well, not changes, if we write to new blocks, which seem like changes, we'll then take a picture of that map and be able to restore back to the different maps that make best sense for the data that we want to get back to. What this means is it no longer takes a long period of time to either back up or recover our data. So backing up 20 megabytes takes the same amount of time as it takes to back up 20 terabytes. And either backing it up and also recovering it almost instantaneously. Now, thin provisioning. Thin provisioning is something that you will not find in the public cloud. When you provision storage in the public cloud, you're going to be provisioning. You're going to be paying for what you provision. Do you need to use a terabyte? Do you need to use 10 terabytes? Are you actually going to consume all of that? You're not sure, but you might have to provision that up front. Within provisioning, you grow as you go. In this model, you go ahead and on NetApp, you would end up saying, I want to provision a terabyte or 10 terabytes. You don't actually consume the storage right up front. That is something that is made available to you as an upper limit. That way you're able to grow into it as you need to. This also works very well with deduplication. So with deduplication, I thought that this picture might serve better than me fumbling through an actual explanation. But effectively what this is any of the common blocks are identified, and we keep one of those common blocks. Any of the other duplicates, we can actually free up and redirect our pointers to that common data block. This actually results in a massive storage and capacity savings and makes it much more efficient. And this also goes very, very well hand in hand with thin provisioning, so you're not over-consuming the storage that you provision. Flex clones are also another technology based off our snapshots. So think of them as a writable snapshot. So if I have a 10 terabyte working set and I want to go ahead and leverage this another 5 times, this is where I don't actually need to provision another 50 terabytes. I am only really consuming the original 10 terabytes. If I have anything I want to write, these are writable containers. Any of the metadata changes will be put into each of the applicable container, and I can actually go ahead and resynchronize and push that data back on-prem, or I can cut that off and create another copy. But the thing that's really nice about Flex clones is the speed in which you can go ahead and continue your test, dev, QA, whatever it is you want to try and do. They're, again, based on snapshots which are near instantaneous. So very, very good and useful technology there too. Compression, everyone should know what compression is. Basically compressing the data to reduce the overall capacitor requirements based upon the internal algorithms. And compaction is something new that we're offering with OnTop. This is where it's very similar to compression, but instead we're actually trying to be more efficient before we write anything to disk. So for the file sizes, instead of actually having a 4K block size for each file, we'll identify how big the files are and actually put as much as we can into a 4K block size before committing it to disk. Now, one of the things I want to do before talking about actually showing some of the storage efficiencies in action, now this is an NPS or NetApp private storage calculator that we've come up with and we have internally and we can actually use to enable our customers or provide awareness for our customers. And this is actually trying to show you a little bit about storage efficiencies in action. And this is a very modest example. This is an example for a SQL workload where we're using roughly 80 terabytes worth of capacity and a 15% growth rate for our storage requirements. Now, this is going to be comparing a NetApp private storage system, which is a NetApp storage system closely located to the public cloud, so next to the public cloud. You can think of this as a on-premises NetApp system, like you'd use for your normal application processing, but the compute you'd be using would be in the public cloud. So you get the best of both worlds for NetApp storage efficiencies, in addition to leveraging the elasticity and the compute in the public cloud. Well, what we have here is if we're using 80 terabytes and had a growth rate, well, we have no storage efficiencies in the cloud provider. So this is where in the cloud you would end up consuming the full 80 terabytes, but with a modest efficiency rating of thin provisioning deduplication, roughly 36% for thin provisioning, 7% for dedupe. And honestly, these are very low, by the way. But trying to go on the high side for this estimate. And then also the snapshot copy is only taking 5 days worth of backups. you will be doing more. Then you will be more efficient. But over a 3-year period, we've identified that a NetApp private storage system would be much more cost-effective than going full-on in the public cloud. And this is just only a pricing example. Even though you might have a co-location facility cost associated with this, as well as maybe some operational or staffing cost associated with the NetApp private storage system. Overall, it would still be much more effective. And we haven't even talked about the benefits of what the data fabric can provide to you for the overall elasticity and data mobility. Taking this a little bit further and actually talking about maybe some cost assessments for OnTap Cloud. So OnTap Cloud being a virtualized version of OnTap running in either AWS or Microsoft Azure. This calculation right now, I will say, is specifically for comparing AWS. The example that I've done here is for fast disk, so their GP2 or general purpose disk, which is mimicking a solid state disk. That's the example I have for AWS. That's the example I have for OnTap Cloud. But a similar use case. So SQL workload, roughly 80 terabytes. Leveraging one of the larger OnTop cloud systems, modest efficiency ratings. Again, you're going to be consuming the full 80 terabytes and then the extra growth, for what you need for a period of time. And then you have the OnTop cloud system. Again, because of the storage efficiencies, you need to provision less overall raw storage underneath an OnTop cloud system. And with this cost comparison, I did it for a monthly consumption because you typically consume resources for storage in AWS on a monthly basis. So based on a monthly calculation, this would be, again, a cost savings from the NetApp efficiencies for an OnTop cloud system, even though we are also subject to some compute charges. Now, an OnTop cloud system does leverage underlying EBS disks for its data aggregates, but it also leverages an EC2 compute instance for running like a NetApp for a NetApp FAS controller. So the blue part is the cloud computing. The storage is the reddish orangish part. But again, you have an overall cost savings. This is for a month, and you can imagine that these costs stay very consistent. But if we actually look at a year worth of processing, the percentages stay the same, but the dollar savings are even greater. So again, this is the first example was for a 1-month assessment, and this is for a 1-year assessment. And in this example, again, I'm getting a 43% efficiency rating using an OnTap cloud system. If you're leveraging even more of our storage efficiencies, then your savings will be greater. One of the other things that I've mentioned in our overall efficiency is our efficient data replication. For those of you who are familiar with NetApp, you'll recognize this as SnapMirror. This is actually fairly intuitive. Well, at least it's intuitive to me. This is where you can actually go ahead and do a replication from a source system to a destination system. In this example, I'm showing that I've got a data center which has my NetApp systems in it, and I can replicate either to an OnTap cloud system in the cloud, or I can replicate to a NetApp private storage system next to the cloud. The thing that's actually you end up doing is if you ever move data into the public cloud natively, you have to move the full working set. So this means if you have a 10 terabyte working set and you need to move it multiple times, you're moving the entire working set multiple times. With the efficiencies around SnapMirror, you only move it once, and then it's incremental forever. So you do need to get the baseline from the source system to the destination system, but once that's there, you only end up having to ship the deltas. Better yet, the only thing that you have to ship is not just the deltas, but those deltas also take advantage of these storage efficiencies. So if it's thin provisioned and deduplicated, you retain those storage efficiencies over the transport, so you're transporting less data. This becomes very important because if you wanted to replicate back out of the cloud, you don't have to ship the whole working set. You can actually just reverse the direction of the replication relationship, and then only the changes, the storage efficient changes, are shipped back. So this is another way of saving costs in the public cloud. Another efficiency is our ability to do seamless data tiering. Now, either manually or through a user interface, or more importantly, through our APIs, you're able to go ahead and change the class of storage that's supporting your data. So if you know that you have some applications that require faster storage, you can move the volumes or the data underneath the covers without any impact to the applications, and you can do it while live application processing is while applications are processing. So this is where you can identify if you want it to be on your faster or more expensive storage, if it is an application or project which is no longer mainstream or no longer requires the fast storage, but you still need to keep around, you can move it off to another tier. Now this is where OnTop Cloud, we now have the ability of consuming and making the underlying EBS storage available. This first off is going to be the general purpose disk, or it's going to be the hot or cold hard drives, which were just made available recently by AWS. Similarly, if you have a NetApp private storage system, and that NetApp private storage system is configured where it has shelves of solid-state drives, SAS drives, or SATA drives, those that can actually create the underlying data aggregates. And again, it's OnTap, so you have the ability to move those active and hot workloads from one tier to storage to another seamlessly. And that can actually help you with both cost savings, and I also know that one of our customers liked to do this live while he got a customer. He had his own internal customer who was complaining that they weren't getting the performance they needed out of the storage. While he was on the phone, he did the move of their storage to the faster storage. He asked if the customer was still experiencing the problem. The customer said yes, and he said it's not a storage problem because you're on the fastest tier. So it helps with mitigating other issues like that as well, and in addition to cost savings. One of the other tiering technologies that is coming soon, I thought that this was worth a mention because I am still at Insight Berlin. We've announced it at NetApp Insight in Vegas and at Berlin here at our conference. And this is a auto tiering capability for hybrid cloud. And this is called Fabric Pool. Fabric Pool is where you have an all-flash FAS, or you might have a NetApp system with SSD disks, or you have an OnTop Cloud system leveraging GP2 disks, effectively an SSD equivalent. But this will do automated tiering between your flash storage and an S3 compliant bucket. In this case, that might be Amazon Web Services S3 service. It could be NetApp's StorageGrid WebScale, which is S3 compliant. But the way this works is that you don't need to set anything. It's more of a set it and forget it. If you want to move your inactive data or the blocks, the inactive blocks that support your data, or the snapshot, meaning the backup copies of your data, over to the S3 bucket. Now, this will free up your premium tier storage and reduce your overall consumption, so it can be used for other active working sets. The way that this will work is that it'll be closely located with the object storage, so the round trip is going to be very, very fast. So if anyone wants to access those inactive blocks, they'll be made immediately available for those active workloads. Again, I want to mention that this is going to be made available very, very soon. It's not available just yet. When it is released, it will actually work for Amazon Web Services S3 in a public cloud format, and in a private cloud format, it will work with NetApp StorageGrid WebScale. We are also working on roadmap items where this will be supported for Microsoft Azure as well as OpenStack. Now I want to take you through a customer use case. This is a customer who is leveraged quite a bit of NetApp's data fabric, and as well as showing the highlights of what's possible with NetApp storage efficiencies and data technologies. This is Technology One, based out of Australia. Technology One is Australia's largest software company, and they have over 1,000 customers. These can be government customers, healthcare, education, you name it. And it's not just Australia. They also have the customers who span the South Pacific and also into Europe. And so they actually have to be global. But Tech One actually went through a challenge. They actually did go all into the public cloud. That was due to a catastrophic event back in 2011 where they had two highly available and redundant data centers, but because of flooding, both of those data centers were impacted. This prompted them to go into the public cloud. The public cloud provided a lot of elasticity and capabilities, but this is where they were starting to see an excess spend for their storage, and their customers were complaining a little bit about the underlying performance, or that their SLAs weren't being met. So Technology One went and worked with NetApp and said, we are a long-time NetApp customer. We understand storage efficiencies. Is this something that can work here? Absolutely. So this is where they went ahead and engaged with us. We ended up deploying redundant all-flash FAS systems in 2 different co-location facilities in Equinix facilities for them. So they had the redundancy there, connecting into Amazon Web Services at that time, but also they've now extended that to Microsoft Azure, so they have multi-cloud. But the all-flash FAS system helped them relieve the performance concerns their customers had. They've not only met, but they've exceeded the SLAs that the customers expected, and they're getting 10 times the performance that they would out of a native public cloud storage. More importantly, we're talking about storage efficiencies and cost savings in the public cloud. Well, because of using thin provisioning and deduplication, Technology One was recognizing an 85% dedupe rate over what they normally had. So they're consuming a lot less storage. But they're also heavily using flex clones to be able to go ahead and use those efficient and cost-effective copies of their data when they needed to try and facilitate other customer needs for test dev. So Technology One is a great customer use case. If you do want to find out more about Technology One, please go to netapp.com and look at the customer stories, and you can find out even more there. But the main thing that I want to try and tell you here, again, they recognize a lot of percentages, but those percentages turn into dollar savings. Technology One recognized nearly a $10 million savings over a period of 3 years by leveraging NetApp in the public cloud. One of the other things, too, about managing data in the public cloud is managing data in the public cloud. How would you do that? How do I have access to my different information? This is where if you use something like OnCommand Cloud Manager, OnCommand Cloud Manager can see both your cloud-based systems of ONTAP Cloud, but it can also see your on-premises system so long as you have the network connectivity to your on-premises systems. This provides a very intuitive user interface that allows you to help manage provision storage, making sure it's storage efficient, doing flex clones, actually doing efficient replication. So you're able to go ahead and click and drag your source system, maybe your on-premises system, up to your ONTAP Cloud for AWS, or maybe your ONTAP Cloud for Azure system. Or maybe you want to go the other way. Maybe you're doing your primary processing in the cloud, but you want to move that back on premises for some reason. It's a simple click and drag to initiate a SnapMirror relationship. So that offers you also a lot of choice for your security encryption, depending upon your security needs. But we're talking about efficiencies today, so it's very, very cost effective and very easy. Also, OnCommand Cloud Manager is a free product for you to use. And with that, I'm going to go quickly skip over into a demo. And let's see, this is the first time I'm using this new webinar system, so I'm going to try and play. And actually, where am I? I need to come over to my working environments. So it shows green for me, so I'm hoping that means it's very good for you. So I've accessed my OnCommand Cloud Manager system, and here is a demo system I stood up a few days ago for purposes of showing you some demonstrations for this webinar. So this is an ONTAP Cloud system for in Amazon Web Services. Again, we do have ONTAP Cloud in a high available configuration as well, and we also have ONTAP Cloud for Azure coming out very, very soon, in roughly the next week or so. So if I actually look at this ONTAP Cloud system, I'm going to go and access the resources by double-clicking. And this is live, by the way. So this is an actual system that I have. So here I see several different volumes. In this case, I'm using the general purpose disks for my active workload. So I've got some home directories, I've got a SQL database, and some logs that I'm actually trying to use. But what I want to do here is I want to go over to the cost reports. So if you configure the cost reports, it can give you a lot more insight into your overall spend in the cloud. And this month, I've only had this up for a couple of weeks. I can see that I've spent $40.73. So here I have a breakdown between my storage and my compute. My compute charges are fairly low because I keep on turning this off when I don't need it. I turned it on earlier for the purposes of showing this demo, but this way I'm actually able to mitigate some of the compute charges. But here I can also see that my compute charges are really 1/4 of my overall spend. So my storage charges are really 3/4 of the overall spend. The thing that's nice here is that if I see that I've actually got cost savings. So the cost savings here are for things like thin provisioning, deduplication, and compression. And what I have here is I see that my overall capacity requirement that I've pulled from AWS is roughly over 1 terabyte. Now, to be fair, what this is under the covers is I have a 1 terabyte disk drive for my data aggregates, so I can provision storage from the OnTop system. And the other components are really for the boot and root for instantiating this virtual instance in AWS. So this is just to run the system. But we wanted to make sure that any AWS storage was accommodated here, not just for the data. But I'm leveraging this data as roughly 4.5 terabytes worth of capacity. So a much greater savings, and I'm actually able to leverage that in a much greater fashion than I would normally. And if otherwise, I'd have to provision almost 4.5 terabytes of AWS GP2 storage if I wasn't using something like OnTop Cloud. And that would actually be a lot more expensive. If I want to try and do a little bit more here, let's see. I can go and create another temporary volume. Let's go ahead and add a new volume. Let's say demo volume. And I'll keep it for NFS, and I'll just make it, let's say 250, 250 gig. And here I have a couple of different usage profiles. Now, you can choose to use the volume creation wizard from Cloud Manager. It's here and available for you. The highest performance is where we can go ahead and be like the public cloud and not employ any storage efficiencies, or we can leverage all of NetApp storage efficiencies like thin provisioning, dedupe, and compression. So I'm going to do that here, and let's say click on Create. And okay, this is where also Cloud Manager will try to identify if we need any other underlying capacity to support our requirements. We make sure that we don't oversubscribe based upon your tolerance thresholds. Those are configurable by you within the Cloud Manager interface. And this is telling me that in order to facilitate this other requirement, I may be oversubscribing, so we recommend that you deploy another general purpose disk under the covers. So I can go ahead and do that. And Cloud Manager will take care of going ahead and adding another EBS disk to my data aggregate to ensure I comply with my own tolerances for thresholds. And it will also ensure that I still keep the efficiencies that I expect when I deploy this other volume. And that's all automated, and this will just take effect in just a minute. It will actually go ahead and deploy the volume first, or actually add the EBS volume first, and then it will go ahead and create the NetApp volume for me to use. But for now, let's go back to presentation. And where am I? Hopefully this will work. All right, so you've seen a little bit of On-Command Cloud Manager. On-Command Cloud Manager, again, is the user interface that helps you quickly and easily deploy OnTop Cloud systems or discover your on-premises or NetApp private storage systems. But if you're interested in trying out On-Command Cloud Manager and trying out the storage efficiencies for yourself, there is a 30-day free trial for OnTop Cloud. All you need to do is go to the AWS Marketplace and go ahead and subscribe to OnTop Cloud. You can go ahead and deploy Cloud Manager and also following the helpful guides. You and actually a lot of other people have actually tried this. You can get up and running with OnTop Cloud in less than an hour. And you can, again, use all of the wizards and all of the storage efficiencies that are available to you in Cloud Manager. One of the other places that you should try to go for more information would be cloud.netapp.com. And I'm not seeing a screen refresh here. Oops. So yes, apologies. Maybe it's technical difficulties or a lag on my side. But cloud.netapp.com. Cloud.netapp.com is a website that provides you any and all information about NetApp cloud capabilities and offerings. This is where you can find out more information about NetApp Private Storage. You find out more information about OnTop Cloud and Cloud Manager. You can also look at more information on our new technologies like CloudSync, or find out more information about AltaVault and StorageGrid WebScale, which also offer other sorts of efficiencies available to you in the hybrid cloud. Now, with that, I haven't seen if there's any chat questions yet, but we are now coming to the end of the webinar. But we're available to take any questions that you may have come up on chat. Okay, actually I'm not seeing any questions on chat. If you do have questions, you can please feel free to send them in to us at cloud.netapp.com. You can talk to some folks by clicking on the intercom chat. If you do have any other questions for me, please reach out to me. My email address is hill@netapp.com, and that way we can go ahead and get any of your questions answered. I do want to thank you for attending this very quick webinar about about cost savings in the hybrid cloud. Please come join us for our upcoming webinars. Thank you very much for attending, and actually I see we do have a couple of questions. I apologize before we close. So a couple of questions. Does OnTop Cloud HA double the storage cost? And the quick answer on that is yes. So an OnTop Cloud HA system is effectively two OnTop Cloud systems. And what they're doing is, under the covers, there's synchronous replication from one set of disks to the other, owned by the other node of the cluster. Think of this an OnTop Cloud HA system very similar to a metro cluster configuration. Because of certain limitations in the public cloud, we are not guaranteed the time in which we can reattach the same disks like we do in a physical environment, and that's why there needs to be two sets of disks. The other question is, so you can create volumes within AWS on OnTop 8.3. So the quick answer is our current versions of OnTop that we support is OnTop 9.0 GA, and we also support 9.1 RC1. The earlier versions of OnTop Cloud, which were released back in 2014, were based off of OnTop 8.3. If you did have one of those that you were using and still drawing forward, you could still be able to use it, but the new versions of OnTop Cloud would be based off of OnTop Cloud 9 and 9.1. The next question would be, is the auto-tiering only for OnTop Cloud systems? If you're talking about the Fabric Pool auto-tiering, which is coming out soon, the answer is no. That's available for any OnTop system. The requirement there is that there's going to be close proximity between the OnTop system and the object store. With that, there would be roughly a 20 millisecond round trip. So if you're using an on-premises NetApp storage system, you would likely use an object store like StorageGrid WebScale because of the close round trip. Or if you're leveraging a NetApp private storage system, which is next to the public cloud, you end up having the low latencies you require there as well to be able to use something like AWS's S3. How much does it cost on AWS or Azure to run your OnTop Cloud Manager? So how much does it cost to run? It's not actually OnTop Cloud Manager; it's OnCommand Cloud Manager. So it's part of our OnCommand portfolio and management suite. There are the cost of OnTop Cloud Manager is free. Sorry, I said it too, didn't I? OnTop Cloud, it's OnCommand Cloud Manager. So Cloud Manager is a zero-cost item. The only thing that you will be subject to is if you are running it in the public cloud, you'll be subject to any AWS or Azure resource charges for supporting that instance. And like any cloud instance, you can turn it off when it's not needed. When that when one more disk is needed, if that aggregate has reached its RAID group size limit, would there 3 have been needed? I'm not sure I understand the question. When one or more disk was needed, if that aggregate had reached its RAID group limit. Oh, okay. So yeah. So if I was trying to, if the one in the example in the demo, the one disk that was added was being added to the same aggregate. If it was not possible to add another disk to that aggregate, it would have recommended that we create an additional aggregate. So that is what would have happened. And can you see the RAID layout of the disks? So the RAID layout for an OnTop cloud system is actually RAID 0. And there's a reason for that. We're using the EBS volumes underneath the covers or the LRS disks from Azure. And the disks from the public cloud providers are very highly resilient and highly redundant. They've already taken care of the overall RAID configurations underneath the covers. There's no reason for us to put the extra penalty or capacity penalty for RAID on top of RAID. And as such, we leverage the RAID that's provided to us from AWS. Well, I should say AWS are now Azure. Sorry, I'm still getting used to that myself because Azure is going to be out very, very soon, in the next week or so. Clarification from these questions. No, the costs from AWS or Azure. Clarification from the questions prior to these. So again, I apologize. I'm not sure if I understand that question. If we're talking about Cloud Manager again, Cloud Manager again has no licensing charges, so it is a free product to use. However, if you're going to run it in your AWS account or Azure subscription, you would be running it on a virtual machine. The virtual machine in either AWS or Azure would have some sort of associated charges with it, but there is no charge for the NetApp software. And I believe there are no more questions in the queue. I do thank you for having the questions because I actually like questions. That's actually good. Those are actually very good questions. If you do find that you have any more, again, please feel free to reach out to me, hill@netapp.com, and I'll do my best to either answer you directly or I'll find someone who does have an answer. Now, with that, again, thank you for attending this quick webinar on cost savings in the public cloud. I do hope you found it helpful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thank you very much.